The screeching of tires against rain, slicked asphalt, pierced the evening air as Ethan Quinn lunged forward, his weathered hands colliding with the soft fabric of a stranger's coat, pulling her back from certain collision with a speeding bicycle messenger. Time seemed to slow as they stumbled backward together, the cyclist swerving wildly before regaining balance and disappearing around the corner with only a hasty, half-hearted apology thrown over his shoulder. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, his breath forming small clouds in the chilly October air. His heart hammered against his ribs as he steadied the woman, who appeared both startled and disoriented. Yes, thank you," she replied, her voice surprisingly composed despite the near accident. She was elegant in a simple but clearly expensive camel coat, her dark hair falling in loose waves around a face that somehow managed to look both striking and approachable. Ethan released her arm, suddenly self-conscious about his worn jacket and the small coffee stain on his jeans reminders of his morning rush to get his daughter, Lily, to school on time after she'd spilled his much-needed caffeine all over him. "Daddy, is the lady hurt?" 6-year-old Lily appeared at his side, clutching her purple backpack to her chest, her wide eyes concerned beneath her unruly bangs that desperately needed trimming another task on Ethan's endless to-do list. "No, sweetheart." "She's fine," Ethan assured his daughter, placing a protective hand on her small shoulder. The woman's expression softened as she looked down at Lily. "Thanks to your brave dad, I am perfectly fine." She extended her hand toward Ethan. "I'm Amelia Carter." "Ethan Quinn," he replied, noting the firmness of her handshake. "And this is Lily." "Hi, Lily." Amelia crouched down slightly. "That's a very cool backpack you have," Lily beamed, immediately warming to the attention. "It has planets on it. I'm going to be an astronaut." "An excellent career choice," Amelia nodded seriously. A quick glance at his watch reminded Ethan of reality. "We should get going, Lil. We're already late for dinner and you've got homework." He looked back at Amelia. "Glad you're okay, Miss Carter. Please call me Amelia." She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "I'd like to thank you properly. Perhaps coffee sometime." Ethan hesitated before accepting the card, surprised by the offer. "That's really not necessary." "I insist," she said with a smile that made something in his chest stir, a feeling he hadn't experienced in the 3 years since his wife had passed away. "Daddy, I'm hungry." Lily tugged at his jacket, bringing him back to earth. "Right, of course." "Well, goodbye then," Ethan said, pocketing the card and leading Lily away, unaware of how Amelia watched them go, or that the simple business card he'd tucked away bore the name of Carter Enterprises, one of the largest technology corporations in the country. The apartment was quiet except for the soft scratching of Lily's pencil as she worked on her spelling homework at the kitchen table. Ethan stood at the stove, stirring a pot of mac and cheese, Lily's favorite, and one of the few meals he could prepare without disaster. The day's encounter kept replaying in his mind. "Daddy, how do you spell because?" Lily asked, interrupting his thoughts. "Becuase," he spelled out. "Remember the trick I taught you? Big elephants can always understand small elephants." Lily giggled and carefully wrote the word. "I like elephants." "Me too, kiddo." Ethan smiled, serving the simple dinner onto 2 mismatched plates. He'd once had matching dishware before life had thrown him the curveball of single parenthood and financial struggle. As they ate, Ethan found himself absently touching the business card in his pocket. After Lily was tucked in bed, he finally pulled it out, examining it under the dim light of the kitchen's sole functioning bulb. The card was thick, cream-colored stock with embossed lettering. Amelia Carter, CEO, Carter Enterprises. Below was a phone number and email address. Ethan nearly dropped the card. Carter Enterprises was everywhere their technology powered half the devices in his apartment, including the outdated laptop he used for his freelance graphic design work. Amelia Carter wasn't just some random businesswoman. She was practically a household name, Though he'd never seen her photo in the business magazines he occasionally flipped through at the library. "Well, that explains the coat," he muttered to himself, returning the card to his pocket. What would a billionaire CEO want with a struggling single dad who could barely afford this month's rent? Coffee was probably just her polite way of saying thanks. People like Amelia Carter didn't associate with people like him beyond momentary interactions. He pushed the thought aside and opened his laptop. 2 hours of design work awaited him before he could sleep. Across town, in a penthouse overlooking the city, Amelia Carter was similarly unable to forget their encounter. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of wine in hand, gazing at the twinkling cityscape below. "Miss Carter, your conference call with Tokyo is in 5 minutes," her assistant, Rebecca, announced from the doorway. "Thank you, Rebecca," Amelia replied, setting down her wine. "Before that, could you do something for me? Find out what you can about an Ethan Quinn. He has a daughter named Lily, approximately 6 years old." Rebecca raised an eyebrow but made a note on her tablet. "May I ask why?" "Professional curiosity," Amelia said, though she knew it was more than that. Something about Ethan's immediate selflessness, the way he'd risked his safety without hesitation, and the evident devotion to his daughter had struck a chord with her. In her world of calculated business moves and strategic relationships, such genuine behavior was refreshingly rare. The conference call with Tokyo went smoothly, as did the 3 meetings that followed the next morning. By afternoon, Rebecca had placed a slim folder on Amelia's desk. Ethan Quinn, 32, widower. His wife, Sarah, died of cancer 3 years ago. 1 daughter, Lily, age 6, former art director at Meridian Advertising until the company downsized last year. Currently works freelance graphic design jobs while looking for full-time employment. Rents an apartment in the Riverside district. No criminal record, excellent credit, until recently likely due to medical bills from his wife's illness and subsequent loss of stable income. Amelia absorbed the information, feeling a strange mix of sympathy and intrigue. "Thank you, Rebecca." "Would you like me to arrange a meeting?" "No," Amelia said, picking up her phone. "I think I'll handle this myself." 3 days later, Ethan was hunched over his laptop at the Daily Grind, a small coffee shop near Lily's school where he often worked between drop-off and pickup. The place had decent Wi-Fi and didn't mind if he nursed a single coffee for hours. "Is this seat taken?" The familiar voice made him look up, and he nearly knocked over his coffee. Amelia Carter stood beside his table, dressed more casually than before in dark jeans and a simple blue sweater, though the designer labels were evident to anyone paying attention. "Miss Carter," he stammered, quickly saving his work. "No, please, sit down." "Amelia," she corrected, sliding into the chair opposite him. "I was hoping I'd run into you here." Ethan's brow furrowed. "How did you know I'd be here?" A flash of something embarrassment perhaps crossed her face. "I may have done a little research. Professional habit, I'm afraid." "I hope that doesn't sound too stalkerish." "Only mildly terrifying," he replied with a hesitant smile. "But I suppose when you're worth billions, you can find out whatever you want about anyone." She winced slightly. "So you looked me up too." The business card was a bit of a giveaway. He closed his laptop. "Though I have to say, I didn't expect the CEO of Carter Enterprises to track down a struggling graphic designer for coffee." "Former art director," she corrected. "At Meridian Advertising." Now it was Ethan's turn to be surprised. "You really did your homework." "I like to know who's saving me from reckless cyclists." Her smile was warm, genuine. "Besides, I wasn't kidding about wanting to thank you properly. It was nothing, really. Anyone would have done the same. We both know that's not true." Amelia signaled a barista, who appeared almost instantly. "Another coffee for Mr. Quinn, and I'll have a chai latte, please." "You don't have to," Ethan began. "Please," she interrupted. "Let me buy you a coffee, at least." He relented, and as they waited for their drinks, an awkward silence settled between them, the silence of 2 people from completely different worlds trying to find common ground. "So," Amelia finally said, "what were you working on so intently?" "Logo design for a local bakery," Ethan explained, some of his tension easing as he discussed his work. "They can't pay much, but it might lead to more business." Their conversation flowed more naturally after that, moving from design to Lily's space obsession, to Amelia's surprisingly normal childhood before her father's tech company took off. By the time Ethan realized he needed to pick up Lily from school, an hour had passed. "I should go," he said, reluctantly packing up his laptop. "Of course." Amelia hesitated, then added, "I actually had an ulterior motive for seeking you out today." Ethan paused, suddenly wary. "Carter Enterprises is rebranding our consumer division. We need someone with a fresh perspective for the design work." She pulled out another business card, this one belonging to someone named Daniel Foster, creative director. "I'd like you to meet with him. The project pays well and could lead to more work if you're interested." Ethan stared at the card. "You're offering me a job, an opportunity," she corrected. "You'd still be freelance, but with consistent work from us. Daniel will make the final decision, of course, but a recommendation from me carries some weight." "Why?" The question came out before he could stop it. "Why me?" Amelia's expression softened. "Because you have talent. I looked at your portfolio online, but mostly because I believe in second chances and sometimes people just need a door opened for them." She stood up. "The rest is up to you." Before he could respond, she was gone, leaving Ethan with a business card, a cooling coffee, and the distinct feeling that his life had just taken an unexpected turn. The interview with Daniel Foster went surprisingly well. The creative director was initially skeptical of Amelia's recommendation, but warmed quickly when he saw Ethan's portfolio and heard his ideas for the rebranding project. 2 days later, Ethan received an email confirming he'd gotten the job, with a contract offering more money for 3 months of work than he'd made in the past 6. That night, he splurged on takeout pizza for dinner, watching with delight as Lily devoured her favorite food. "Can we get ice cream too?" she asked, cheese stringing from her slice. "Not tonight, sweetie, but soon," Ethan promised. "Daddy got a really good job today." "Does that mean we can fix my bike?" Lily asked hopefully. Her second-hand bicycle had a broken chain that Ethan hadn't been able to afford to replace. "Definitely. And maybe we can even look at getting you some new sneakers this weekend." Lily's eyes widened. "The ones with the stars that light up." "We'll see," Ethan laughed, wiping sauce from her chin. "First, we have to celebrate. How about a pillow fort and 1 extra episode of that space show you like?" "Yes," Lily cheered, pizza temporarily forgotten in her excitement. Later, after Lily was asleep in her bedroom, surrounded by the glow in the dark stars Ethan had painstakingly arranged on her ceiling, he sat on the couch with his phone in hand, staring at Amelia's number. He'd texted a brief thank you after getting the job, to which she'd responded with simple congratulations. Now, he felt compelled to do more. Before he could second-guess himself, he dialed her number. To his surprise, she answered on the second ring. "Ethan," she said, his name sounding different in her voice. "Is everything okay?" "Yes, everything's great, actually. He paused, suddenly unsure. "I wanted to thank you properly for the opportunity." "You don't need to thank me." "Daniel was impressed with your work, not your connection to me. Still, I'd like to buy you dinner sometime, as a thank you." The words tumbled out before he could stop them. There was a brief silence on the line. "I'd like that," she finally said. "Though I should warn you, I'm leaving for a business trip to London tomorrow. I won't be back until next week." "Next week works for me," Ethan replied, trying to keep the relief from his voice. It would give him time to prepare, maybe even buy a new shirt that didn't have either coffee stains or Lily's artwork on it. They agreed on a date and time, and after hanging up, Ethan sat in the dim light of his living room, wondering what he'd just set in motion. Amelia Carter lived in a world of private jets and penthouse apartments. His idea of splurging was ordering pizza instead of making spaghetti. What could possibly come of this dinner beyond an awkward evening and a polite goodbye? Yet something about her drew him in, not her wealth or status, but the genuine interest she'd shown in his work, in Lily, in him as a person. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at him that way. While Amelia was in London, Ethan threw himself into the rebranding project, working late into the night after Lily was asleep. The work was challenging but fulfilling, forcing him to stretch creatively in ways he hadn't since his days at Meridian. By the time his dinner with Amelia approached, he'd completed preliminary designs that even he was proud of. He'd chosen a restaurant that wouldn't embarrass him, not high-end, but respectable, with good food and a quiet atmosphere. He'd even bought a new blue button-down shirt for the occasion, which Lily had solemnly approved. "You look handsome, Daddy," she declared as he dropped her off at his neighbor Mrs. Peterson's apartment for the evening. "Like a prince." "Thank you, Princess Lily," he replied, kissing the top of her head. "Be good for Mrs. Peterson, okay? I'll be back to get you before bedtime." "Is your friend pretty?" Lily asked, her head tilted curiously. Ethan hesitated. "Yes, she is, but she's also very smart and kind." Lily nodded, satisfied with his answer. "Good. You should have pretty, smart, kind friends." Ethan arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes early, nervous energy making it impossible to sit still at home any longer. He was surprised to find Amelia already waiting, seated at a corner table, wearing a simple black dress that somehow looked more elegant than anything he'd seen in fashion magazines. "You're early," he said as he approached. "So are you," she replied with a smile. "I just got back from London this morning. I'm still on UK time, I think." "How was your trip?" he asked, settling into his chair. "Productive, exhausting, the usual?" She waved a hand dismissively. "But I don't want to talk about work. Tell me how Lily is doing." Ethan found himself relaxing as he talked about Lily's latest space fact obsession and her excitement over her repaired bicycle. Amelia listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed she was truly paying attention. "She sounds wonderful," Amelia said as their appetizers arrived. "You're doing an amazing job with her." "I'm trying," Ethan admitted. "It's not always easy doing it alone." "I can't imagine. My parents divorced when I was 12, and even with all the resources in the world, it was still difficult." The conversation flowed easily between them, touching on childhood memories, favorite books, and embarrassing stories. Ethan was surprised to find how normal Amelia seemed, despite her extraordinary circumstances. She laughed openly at his jokes, shared her own insecurities, and seemed genuinely interested in his opinions on everything from art to parenting. "Can I ask you something personal?" he ventured as they shared a dessert, a chocolate cake, that was probably the best thing he'd tasted in months. "That depends on the question," she replied, but her expression remained open. "Why me? And don't say it's just about my design skills. There are thousands of designers out there, many with more impressive resumes than mine." Amelia considered the question, taking a small bite of cake before answering. "When you pulled me away from that bicycle, you didn't hesitate. You didn't stop to think about what you might gain or lose by helping me. You just acted." She set down her fork. "In my world, everything is calculated. Every action, every relationship, every decision is weighed for its potential benefit or harm. It's exhausting, and sometimes I forget what genuine human connection feels like." She met his eyes directly. "You reminded me." The simple honesty of her answer caught Ethan off guard. "I don't know what to say to that." "You don't need to say anything," she smiled softly. "Just keep being exactly who you are." The evening ended too quickly for Ethan's liking. Outside the restaurant, they lingered on the sidewalk, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "I had a wonderful time," Amelia said, her breath visible in the cool night air. "Me too. Better than I've had in a long time," Ethan admitted. "Would it be too forward to suggest we do this again?" Ethan felt a warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with the wine they'd shared. "Not at all. I'd like that very much." "Good." She stepped closer, and for a moment, Ethan thought she might kiss him. Instead, she simply squeezed his hand. "Call me tomorrow." "I will," he promised. As he walked home to pick up Lily, Ethan couldn't wipe the smile from his face. For the first time since Sarah's death, he felt something like hope blossoming in his heart. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Amelia saw each other whenever her busy schedule allowed. They kept their meetings simple coffee shops, walks in the park where Lily could play, even an afternoon at the Natural History Museum that delighted the space-obsessed 6-year-old. Amelia fit into their lives with surprising ease, never imposing or overstepping, just offering her presence and genuine interest. Lily, initially shy around the elegant stranger, quickly warmed to Amelia, especially after discovering that Amelia's company made the educational tablet program her school used. "You make the space games?" Lily had asked, wide-eyed with admiration. "My company does," Amelia clarified. "I have very smart people who design them. Like Daddy designs pictures." Exactly like that. From that moment on, Amelia was firmly in Lily's good graces, and Ethan found himself falling for Amelia a little more each day. Still, he kept a careful guard around his heart. The differences in their lives were stark, and he couldn't shake the fear that eventually, reality would intrude on whatever this was developing between them. That moment seemed to arrive on a rainy Tuesday, when Ethan received a call from Daniel Foster requesting an urgent meeting at Carter Enterprises headquarters. The tone made Ethan's stomach drop had his work not been up to par. Was the contract being terminated early? The Carter Building was an imposing glass and steel structure in the heart of downtown, a world away from Ethan's usual haunts. He felt distinctly out of place as he entered the sleek lobby, his slightly damp jacket and bargain store shoes marking him as an outsider among the polished professionals moving purposefully through the space. Daniel met him in a conference room on the 35th floor, his expression unreadable as he gestured for Ethan to sit. "Your work on the rebranding has been exceptional," Daniel began, which immediately relieved some of Ethan's tension. "So much so that we'd like to expand the scope of your involvement." "Expand how?" Ethan asked cautiously. "We want to offer you a permanent position as Senior Design Director for our consumer division. Full benefits, substantial salary increase, flexible hours to accommodate your daughter's schedule." Ethan blinked in surprise. "That's incredibly generous." "It's good business," Daniel replied matter-of-factly. "You have a unique perspective that our in-house team has been lacking. This isn't charity, Quinn. It's recognition of talent." "Does Amelia know about this offer?" The question slipped out before Ethan could stop it. Daniel's expression shifted slightly. "Miss Carter is aware we're making you an offer, yes, but the decision to do so was mine based on your work. Whatever personal relationship you have with her is separate." Ethan felt a flush of embarrassment. "I didn't mean to imply, no need to explain." Daniel slid a folder across the table. "Take some time to review the details. We'd like your answer by next week." As Ethan left the building, folder clutched in his hand, a storm of emotions swirled within him. The offer was better than anything he could have hoped for: financial security, stable hours for Lily, work he enjoyed. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that it was somehow connected to his relationship with Amelia, despite Daniel's assurances. He needed to talk to her, to clear the air and understand where they stood. Amelia's penthouse was in a building Ethan had passed many times, but never entered the kind of place with a doorman who gave him a skeptical look until Amelia's assistant confirmed he was expected. The elevator ride to the top floor gave him time to gather his thoughts, though they scattered again when Amelia opened her door. "Ethan," she greeted him warmly. "This is a surprise. I thought we were meeting tomorrow." "We were. I'm sorry for dropping by unannounced." He stepped inside, momentarily distracted by the stunning view of the city spread out before floor-to-ceiling windows. The apartment was beautiful but surprisingly understated elegant without being ostentatious. "Is everything okay?" Amelia asked, concern evident in her voice. Where's Lily? With Mrs. Peterson. I had a meeting with Daniel Foster today, understanding dawned on her face. Ah, the job offer. Yes. Ethan set the folder down on a sleek coffee table. It's an amazing opportunity. But, Amelia prompted, sensing his hesitation. But I need to know if this is because of us, because of whatever is happening between you and me. Amelia's expression softened. Ethan, I recommended you for the freelance project because I saw your talent. What happened after that, Daniel offering you a permanent position that was his decision based on your work. I didn't influence it, but you knew about it. Of course I did. I'm the CEO. Major hires cross my desk. She stepped closer to him. If you're asking whether I'd still want to see you if you turned down the job, the answer is absolutely yes. If you're asking whether I orchestrated this to keep you close, the answer is no. Ethan studied her face, finding only sincerity in her eyes. I believe you, he said finally. I'm sorry for doubting. Don't be. She took his hand. In your position, I'd have the same questions. But Ethan, you need to know something. These past few weeks have meant more to me than I can express. I'm falling in love with you and with Lily. The admission seemed to surprise even her. That has nothing to do with job offers or design work. It's simply about who you are. Ethan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. I'm falling in love with you too, he admitted. But your world and mine are so different. I don't know how to bridge that gap. Maybe we don't need to, Amelia suggested. Maybe we just create our own world, somewhere in between. She leaned forward and kissed him then, a gentle touch that quickly deepened into something more urgent, more needing. When they finally pulled apart, Ethan knew with certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, they were worth facing for the chance at happiness with this remarkable woman. Take the job because it's right for you and Lily, Amelia said softly. Not because of me, but not in spite of me either. I will, Ethan promised. And maybe it's time you met Mrs. Peterson. She's been dying to know who's been making me smile so much lately. 6 months later, Ethan stood in his new apartment, a spacious 3-bedroom, in a safe neighborhood with good schools, watching Lily and Amelia huddle over a complex model of the solar system spread across the dining room table. His position at Carter Enterprises had proven challenging but fulfilling, with colleagues who respected his ideas and a schedule that allowed him to be home for dinner with Lily most nights. Daddy, Amelia says we can visit NASA in Florida next month. Lily exclaimed, looking up from her project with excitement shining in her eyes. Can we really? If your dad says it's okay, Amelia added, glancing at Ethan with a smile that still made his heart race. I think that sounds amazing, Ethan agreed, joining them at the table. But you'll have to keep your room clean until then, Lily nodded solemnly. I promise, super clean, astronaut clean. Good, Ethan laughed. Now finish up your homework while I start dinner. As Lily returned to her solar system, Amelia followed Ethan into the kitchen, slipping her arms around his waist as he pulled ingredients from the refrigerator. Happy? She asked, resting her chin on his shoulder. Very, he replied, turning to face her. Though I'm still getting used to dating a billionaire. Just dating? Amelia raised an eyebrow teasingly. Ethan grinned. For now, but I have plans. Do tell, he kissed her lightly. All in good time, Miss Carter, all in good time. Their relationship wasn't without challenges. The press occasionally speculated about the CEO of Carter Enterprises dating an employee, and Ethan sometimes still felt out of place at corporate events. But those moments were overshadowed by the joy of building a life together, one movie night, one dinner, one ordinary day at a time. What had begun with a split-second decision to save a stranger from a speeding bicycle had transformed into something neither of them could have predicted. A family forming, love growing, and the promise of a future brighter than either had dared to hope for. And in the end, wasn't that the greatest wealth of all? On their 1-year anniversary, Ethan took Amelia back to the spot where they'd first met. With Lily's enthusiastic blessing and help selecting the ring, He asked Amelia to marry him on that same rain-slicked corner. She said yes, before he could even finish the question, tears streaming down her face as passers-by smiled at the obviously love-struck couple. Later that night, as they celebrated with Lily over ice cream sundaes in their living room, Ethan marveled at how completely his life had changed in a single year. From struggling single dad to senior design director with a brilliant daughter and an extraordinary fiancé, all because he'd reached out to save a woman from a bicycle, unaware she would end up saving him right back. Sometimes the most important turns in life come from the simplest acts of kindness. And sometimes, just sometimes, they lead exactly where you're meant to be.